So I made a video called Revise Quickly. I just want to extend on this idea because there's a few trains of thoughts here where, on the one hand, I've had people ask, well, how do you make things work quicker? How do you make the imaginal acts appear faster? And because there's a seed time and there's a harvest in this place. When we plant a seed, it doesn't instantly grow. But you experience that in imagination. You experience it already grown in imagination. But it's really the planting of a seed as well. And there's a time frame in between. But the only way that I have found, like Neville gave the answers that you want to be natural about it. And that makes a lot of sense, because if it's natural, then it should naturally appear in a natural world. If it's naturally part of your being, if that's how you are, you're going to naturally express that, regardless. Now that's true. But I also think that there's there's something about the time in which you imagine something when you feel the urge to imagine it. If you can shorten up the time frame, I can give an example in a second. I've noticed things come about a bit quicker. Or at least there's some importance there that I've noticed just from my own experience. So, for example, I had a friend who was going through something in their personal life, and I don't want to give too many details, but there was something going on in their personal life, and it wasn't good news. And when they would call, they always gave me the same news, and it wasn't what they wanted. But I knew what they wanted. They told me what kind of good news they wanted to hear. But again, I would pick up the phone and I would hear the opposite of what I wanted to hear. I'd hear the opposite news. And for the first couple of times, I would go to revise it later in the day. I just noticed this about myself. So, I'll revise that later, at night. I'll rearrange the phone call. But then I started noticing that there was a feeling after a couple times of that happening, and I would call, he'd call again, I'd imagine it, and then I'd get the phone call, and it'd be the opposite of what I imagined. And then again, I'd get a phone call, opposite of what I imagined. I'd get a phone call, opposite of what I imagined. And it started, and this is what I mean by persistence. This is what persistence to me means from Neville's work, is that I heard the opposite news. What do? I have to persist in the idea. But I started noticing, I guess I asked myself the question, what if I didn't wait until nighttime? And I started to act on this feeling right away. So again, I decided to test it. I decided to leave everything the same. It's the same news, the same bad news. I'm imagining the same good news. I'm just going to change the time in which I do it. Let's just see if that results in anything different. And so I'd get a phone call. I'd hear the opposite news. And then right when the phone ended, I would rearrange the call instantly. I would pick up the phone in my mind and hear the good news that I wanted to hear instead. And I would replace it almost with the imaginal phone call rather than the one I just had physically. And I would get a phone call a couple weeks later, opposite news. And so I had a choice again. Why don't I just act on it right now? If I know what to do, why don't I just do it right now rather than waiting? And so instantly I decided to rearrange the phone call again. And I think it wasn't, if I'm not mistaken, it wasn't until the third phone call that they called me and they had a whole different tone in their voice. And they told me the exact news, the good news that they wanted to hear that I was hearing for them. And I persisted in it. And exactly what Neville said is that an assumption, which I was assuming a different phone call, if persisted in, will harden into fact. And it did. And I persisted in it. Now, persistence really only appears when there's an obstacle. That's when you persist, is when you persist in the good news when you just heard the bad news. I didn't accept what was said. Not necessarily. Maybe on the phone call I was listening and I was hearing the bad news and I was listening to it just like you would listen to anything. But I didn't accept it right after. I rearranged the phone call for myself. I gave myself a different phone call. And I was waiting, in a sense, until it appeared. And then I get a phone call and I get the opposite. So I had a choice. Every time I heard the opposite news, I had a choice. What am I going to do? I can wait till nighttime and maybe I'll forget it by then. Or I can act on it right now and do something about it right now. It's sort of like when you see someone struggling, but you can't fully help them as much as you would like. You can move on with your day and just say, well, I hope they get things figured out. I've noticed that it's in those exact moments that I should act on imagination. It's that exact moment when I see somebody struggling, I should imagine for them right away because I noticed it. I became aware of it. So I shouldn't wait until later on in the day. Again, I might forget, and never, nothing ever happened from that. Like nothing's going to change. It's going to be the exact same. And so to me, it's very important that you act on it right away. Don't wait until the night or the day. You have an idea about yourself that you want to start imagining, start doing it right this second. Even for a time, even if it's for a short time, just try to see yourself differently, or hear different news about yourself, or hear different news from someone else. And when they tell you the opposite news, don't freak out. Persist. Persist instantly, if you will. And so what we're really doing on a deeper level is we're actually trying to mimic imagination. Because imagination, if it was a person, this type of person wouldn't be bound by the senses, right? Because when you close your eyes at night, you start dreaming something different, right? Even though you're in your bed and you know you're in your bed, all of a sudden your mind starts going somewhere else and you're in a different land. It's almost as if your imagination doesn't care about your senses. It doesn't care that it's in a room. It doesn't care at all. And so if you had to personify that in a person, this type of person believes in things that aren't there. At least not yet. Believes that if they have it, they will. They think of it this way. Imagination would be a person that always believes in you at all times. And you can test this because it shows you. So for example, in this case, the good news that I was hearing in my mind, my imagination already believed in it. That's why it's showing me it. It already believes that you are what you want to be. That's why it shows you. It's like a kind gesture. Now, we may not accept what we see. We may even deny it and, deem it a label. I certainly could have heard the good news and doubted it, but I wasn't trying to believe in it. I was trying to feel the reality of it. So what I would do is right after the phone call, I'd pick up the phone, hear the bad news, put the phone down physically. And then right after, in my imagination, I picked up the imaginary phone, my imaginary phone, heard the imaginary good news from my imaginary friend, but I felt it as if it was all happening to me, as if my phone was ringing and I should answer it. I was really receptive to the scene. I experienced it as if it was happening. If it took me to remove a little bit of my reasoning to feel it, then I would remove the reasoning. My goal was to try to feel the reality of the good news. And then it happened. But it's a good story of persistence, is that I heard the opposite maybe 6 times. And the first couple times that I heard the opposite, I waited to imagine and just waited. And I realized in that moment, when I would hang up, that my imagination has the ability to hear the good news immediately. And so I want to mimic that being, so I start to hear it immediately. Even though I just heard the opposite. My physical ears heard the bad news, but my inner ears heard the good news. And I started to believe in them. Which is to really say I started to believe myself. Because I'm one with my imagination. So if you believe in your imagination, you're believing in yourself. So next time you have the urge to act, you hear some negative news, and you want to imagine good for someone, just do it immediately. It's like the story that Neville gave where his friend told Neville that, he goes, I imagined for someone and it worked, but it was interesting because I promised myself, he said, I promised that I would never give a homeless person money, because every time I gave them money, they would use it for something else that he didn't approve of. And so he promised himself he would never give a homeless person money. This was his promise to himself. And then a homeless person came up to him and asked him for money. And remembering his promise, he felt, the tension within him. And he decided to follow with his promise and told him that he wasn't going to give him money. He didn't have anything to give him. And he walked away. The homeless man walked away. And he thought about it for a second. He goes, I realized I couldn't act on this right now. So he imagined that homeless person having a job and having money. And I can't remember if it was a week later or a couple of days later, he bumped into that homeless man again. But this time the homeless man wasn't a homeless man. This time the homeless man told him that he was sorry for asking him for money and that he just got a job now. I don't know. I think he already got a paycheck. But his friend had to think about this, that he stopped seeing the homeless man and he started seeing one that was employed and making money and having money. He didn't imagine the apology, but he imagined the change in the person, and he persisted in it. And by instantly doing it, in my view, he instantly acted on this situation, and that's really all you can ask for from somebody. I'm giving you this because what I would do sometimes is I would wait. I'd hear something that wasn't favorable, and wait for some time in the future to imagine, even though I know I could do it right now. That's what I would say, is that taken from my story and this man's story that Neville gave, I had to learn through my mistake that you should act on it quickly. And he acted on it immediately because he remembered. And so when you remember what you should do, then just do it. That would be an alternative answer to the question, how can you make this work faster? That would be, and if you want Neville's answer, just go read Power of Awareness and the chapter on naturalness. He'll tell you his answer. But that would be my answer, is try to act on it while life is happening. Don't wait until the end of the day. You can, but just try to practice it immediately. But okay, that's all I have for this one. Thank you for your time. My books are out. I do live streaming and Q&A when I talk about these ideas a little bit more. And I do one-on-ones as well. So just go to the description and it'll all be there. But okay, thank you for your time. Take care.